you won't settle, right?
No.
Okay. Do you
Go ahead. Say what you gotta say.
And this is a very basic girl. She's a 7. She's cute. Definitely fuckable. But she's nothing special. But most of these girls think that way these days. Most average chicks, or slightly above average, even below average chicks, think they're the shit. And they deserve the world. No, I'm not gonna settle. I want the best. I want this rapper or this basketball player, even though I'm a solid 4.
Okay. Do you think we're doing a good job with marriage nowadays and dating in general? Do you think people are finding what they want in life?
No.
Okay. And would you agree that in foreign countries, maybe not necessarily wherever you're from, but like in other places, people marry much more and they stay married for much longer compared to how we do it here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So wouldn't you also potentially agree that maybe the way that we're doing things is a little bit fucked up?
Definitely.
Okay. And
But they'll blame the men. They wouldn't say it's the woman's fault at all. They're not going to say it's because of feminism or because a lot of men who are worth their salt are not deciding not to get married because of divorce court rape. And they don't want to lose half their assets. And they don't want to lose their children. And they don't want to lose their sanity. Because the system is so biased against men. And also women ain't shit now. They don't cook. They don't clean. They're hoes, high body counts. Like even these basic ass bitches here, they all probably have 30, 40, 50 bodies each at least. And I'm being very, very conservative here. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Guys don't want that shit, especially if you're out here living in a skyscraper wearing designer suits. And if you have options, you don't want these women.
so if I were to ask you, what do you think is the largest difference between how we do things here and how they do it in those countries where it works?
What's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm Italian, so one of the things that I've noticed in Italy is that once you're married, to get divorced is basically unthinkable.
Why?
Because of what I mentioned before, and going back to that, once you marry someone and you make those vows, not only marriage is a safety net, but you're also promising to work things out with that person. So the belief in like divorcing doesn't come as easy as
Okay.
here.
Yeah, because most cultures look down upon divorce and they see it as a bad thing, as it should be looked as. It's a failure. You wasted each other's time. And if you have kids involved, then shame on you to put your own happiness before the kids and still getting a divorce. Bullshit. And Western people, men and women, think that life is about happiness. Just constant and endless entertainment. That's not what life is about, and certainly that's not what a marriage is about. It's about raising children and sacrifice. But these bitches have been fed too much Kim Kardashian. They've been fed too much Cardi B, too much Netflix, too much Instagram. Their egos get boosted too high because they get instant matches on Tinder. They get 50, 60, 100, 200 likes each on their Instagram posts. Even though not one of them is like drop dead gorgeous. Maybe the one on the left here.
Where it's just like,
Maybe just the one on the left. But other than her, this one here, I would say she's an 8, but nothing crazy. But they all probably have a list of what they want in a guy that's like this tall. But what do they bring to the table? Pussy. Which you can get easily these days. You know, if you have some game, you're good looking in the face, got some money, tall. Basically, if you're me. It's not that difficult, man. It really isn't. These women are completely delusional. They don't know what a man wants long term. They know how to suck dick, but they don't know what a guy wants beyond that. Like, what do I want when it comes to like a wifey? They don't have the slightest clue. They think a career woman is what a man wants.
well, let's just get divorced.
It's not,
you know, and
it's
it's basically like people get married to get divorced here. Like that is the goal.
okay.
Women marry to get divorced because it benefits them in this country. Divorce benefits women. It never benefits the men. Because we are the one who lose our assets, our vehicles, our income, future income. Women don't lose shit. And before someone goes, oh, but women can lose in in a divorce too. Yes, very, very rarely when they marry a guy who makes less than them. And women hardly ever do that because that goes against hypergamy, which is drilled into them through evolution. Women are unable to respect a man who makes less than them. That's why most of the marriages end because of financial reasons, not because the guy cheated. I've never had a woman leave me for cheating, ever. I've gotten caught by every single girlfriend, almost every single girlfriend. I've been caught cheating, and not one of them left me because of it. I've had girls leave for other reasons when I was falling off, when my business wasn't doing so well, but never for cheating, never for infidelity.
See what I'm saying?
So when you're living in a foreign country, when they get married, they're not just
They'll share you if you're high value enough.
marrying the person. Families are coming together. You have a whole social responsibility. It's not just me and you.
It's a community thing.
It's a
too.
community thing. Here, everything is about how I feel and what I want and my standards.
Right.
Guess what? Over there, they
Personal
don't talk
gain.
about standards. You know, we asked everyone here what they wanted out of a marriage, and people are talking about we want to grow together, we want to do this. You go to foreign countries, they don't talk about those concepts. They don't want to talk about that. Take care of the kids, take care of me, and make sure that you don't stain our family name, and then that's pretty much set.
Yep.
Right? And divorce is not even a concept. These people settle. It's like their standards are very reasonable and they're very at a good place. And you know what? They end up married and they end up finding somebody that works for them. I think out here, people say they won't settle, but the things that they won't settle on aren't even important to making a marriage last. Well, like, what do you guys think? Like, I was interested in hearing what people were saying, like what I bring to the table long term, but none of you really mentioned the things that really matter to making something work long term. Nobody mentioned responsibility. Nobody mentioned duty, right?
Nope.
Nobody mentioned just the idea of labor. You know, so I think people have these unrealistic expectations when it comes to long-term projects, right? And they think it's, you know, going to be cool and we're going to love each other and there's going to be lots of emotions and spiritualness and all this other stuff. The truth is, it's a lot of work. Go ask people who've been together for a long time. They'll be like, yo, it's work. The wedding day is wonderful. After that, every day you wake up, the kids are crying. You don't get to sleep for days. You guys got all these bills piling up. People got to take second jobs. She's going through fucking, the after effects of pregnancies. There's all kinds of complications. It's a lot of labor. So when people come here and they say they're never going to settle, I already feel like when you're coming at this whole idea of marriage, especially on the things that you say you won't settle on, I'm like, they're not important to having a good and long, prosperous marriage. You know, people talk about, I want to be in love with my husband, but people get divorced. You know what they never mention? Love. Because they still love each other. It had nothing to do with why they get divorced. They get divorced for financial reasons. Right? They get
Exactly what I
divorced maybe
said.
sometimes because of infidelity. Because, you know what? I don't want to be with that person. But love is never the thing. So I just think it's interesting that the things you guys need aren't the reason that people get divorced and aren't the things that keep people staying together for a long time.
That's
Yo,
awesome.
no pun intended,
Wow.
but Abba is preaching.
Yeah, I think that opens up a mind.
Very
and,
true.
and I'm just gonna say one last thing is like,
Yeah.
a lot of you are young here, so for me, like, I don't even fault it. I think hopefully you guys learn this as you grow older, but
They won't learn this till it's too late. They'll learn this shit when they're 29, 30, 35 for some of them. Unfortunately, by that time, it's too late. They don't learn. They're not learning till it's too late.
you start to realize all these romantic notions and all this other stuff is really not that important. You guys got to understand what it means to. It's just not fun. You know what I'm saying? People, you describe them, they've been together for 34 years. They don't look at each other and go like, "This is fun." They're like, "I like being around you."
Not true. I've met people who have been together for 50 years and still hold hands and still are super cute. I was a nurse and I had patients that were 80 years old, and I'm like, how have you been together for 50 years? Like, what's the secret?
You want to know why?
Why?
Because the women were different back then.
Yep.
Yep.
Way different.
I'm gonna keep
They
it a
put up
stack.
They weren't hoes. They didn't have 25, 35, 45 bodies by the time they got married. They weren't in their mid-30s. Most women back then would get married 19, 20. Most of them being virgins by the time they got married. They would marry a man, stick with him forever, give him children, and not have to work as a result because they're the caretakers of the home. But now we're getting these fucked up, astrology believing, Kim Kardashian watching, like shit in the head type of women, and they have super high body counts. Their body counts are higher than their credit scores, and they'll get to 29, 30 with like some bullshit job that makes them 30, 40K a year, talking about, I'm a career boss babe. You're making 45 G's a year before taxes, sweetheart. Calm down. And they have bad attitudes. They think they don't need men, even though they do. This whole society is run by men. If there was no men, these bitches would literally starve or get eaten by bears. And they just have bad attitudes. They don't want to listen. They have feminist ideas in their heads. And they say nonsense like these females here. Just complete nonsense, and they don't make any sense. Matter of fact, they're encouraged to not make any sense anymore.
True. A lot of women want to get married, but they don't want to be wives. Remember, and an example of that: who initiates the divorces? Who breaks up the families?
Women, because they're like I said before, they're incentivized to break marriages in this country. The incentives are backwards. They say to women, "Oh, you don't want to deal with your husband? Well, tell you what. You can divorce him, take half his money, half his future income. Oh, and by the way, you get the kids. Oh, and you get the house as well. And you can suck new dick in his house that he paid for." So women go, okay, well, I can get all the benefits that I can get from him, his income, which is basically why women chose to get settled in the past, because they needed a caretaker, a provider. And not that all women did it for that reason. Some women did it out of love. But it was an arrangement. Marriage was an arrangement. And for the most part, back then, women kept their end of the bargain. But now they don't have to. They don't have to even deal with you. And they'll just get your money from the courts anyway. So they decide to leave you anyways. Fuck new guys. Because we have this Sex in the City culture. And then these women end up depressed and alone in their 50s and 60s. It's not working out for women, and it's not working out for men particularly. What's working out for men if you're at the top? You know, if you have some shit going for you, if you got money, or you know you're good looking in the face, tall like me, shit's really good. The game is good for me right now, but I had to an extent build myself to this level. But all women come out of the box high value. Because as soon as a chick turns 18, she gets attention. Boom. I had to work for my attention. And yeah, sure, I didn't work for my height or my handsome good looks. I didn't have to work for those, but I had to work for the money. I had to work for this condo I have. I had to work for the 2 Benzes downstairs. I know bitches look at that shit. We personally I don't care if a girl has money or not. But then again, these women don't get that. We think like them, and because they want a guy who makes money, that we want a career boss babe who's argumentative and fighty.
It's the woman, man. Like the statistical data is there. Like men will always try to make a marriage work, but it's the women that leave.
Yeah, after he won and fucked 1,000 other women.
But back then, women.
Yeah, because it's in our biology, sweetheart. We are literally designed to do that. Especially the guys at the top, the alpha males, you know, the kind of guys that you want and the kind of guys you exclusively fuck with. We want to have multiple women. Because one pussy gets old after a while. And not that you don't love that pussy anymore. You still love that. You love that pussy with all your heart. You'll die for that pussy. You'll take a bullet for that pussy. But it's just the same pussy, you know? Every once in a while, you want to feel something different. And it's so hardwired into us. And again, because they've been taught equality and that men and women are exactly the same, they have a very hard time grasping this concept. Because they can't fuck a guy who they don't love. Because they don't cheat on guys. If your girl cheats on you, she stopped loving you a long time ago. But see, they don't, because they operate that way, they think that we operate that way as well. That if we cheat, we must not love the woman anymore. But nothing's further from the truth. I cheated for you, babe. I cheated so this relationship could work.
Women were willing to put up with a lot.
They were.
Right
Exactly.
now, women
Yeah.
are not.
They're not.
My
No,
grandparents
that's
have
it.
been married since they were 17.
Yeah.
My grandpa had a whole other kid with another woman, and she still stuck by him. Why? Because she was willing to put up with it. Nowadays, women are not willing to put up with anything.
Let me ask you, was it a good environment for your parents for the most part?
For my grandparents?
No, for your parents to live underneath your grandparents.
Oh, probably not.
Why do you say probably not?
Why? Because of that's infidelity. That's fighting. That's you're seeing. Why is my mom divorced now? Why? Because look what she grew up to.
Or maybe I don't know your mom
go
personally,
ahead, go
but
ahead.
maybe your mom decided I'm going to prioritize me over the family. And you know what? When
Yep.
you raise a kid in a divorced household and you prioritize your sense of happiness first, what ends up happening is that the kid suffers the brunt of that negative energy and that choice that you make. So when I say this is like your grandparents went like family unit's the most important thing. I must make this work, even though I may not be completely content. I understand we're aspiring to something bigger, which is our sense of community. I'm not going to break that up because you did something that I thought was wrong. So you get down to your parents' generation. This is the boomer generation, the highest divorce rates we've ever seen. Now everything's about me. They go to divorce courts. Where's your assets? Where's your money? They don't bring up love during that whole period. They say, I want everything that you fucking got. Love never comes in, right? So then you get to this generation and they just completely throw that out. And I think
So then I would ask men, what's the incentive of getting married in a Western country, U.S., Canada, Western Europe? Why would you get married to a woman when you can get sex, children, companionship otherwise? You can get it without a marriage. There's no more stigma having children out of wedlock anymore in this country. So why would you risk your assets and your future and your life, literally your life? Because they can take away your freedom too if you don't pay the alimony or the child support that they ordered you to pay after the divorce. There's many people in Canada who have lost their freedom because they didn't pay their child support. There's a guy on Joe Rogan's show who he's a Canadian, he can never come back to the country again because he owes child support payments in the millions of dollars. And he owes them from a time where he was actually making money and then his career went down and he didn't have that kind of money anymore, but the judge didn't care. They ordered him to pay $50,000 a month. Bro, how much cereal are these fucking kids eating? But it's not ever for the kids, is it? It's for the fucking woman.
one thing that the West, and I think in Western countries, we think about a lot is like me. It's always about me. And not recognizing when you marry, it's about
my
community.
happiness.
So your desire,
They've been taught that your happiness is key. Everything revolves around you, and your happiness is number one. Fuck the family. Fuck them kids. Who cares? Divorce that man.
Times have to be a bit on the back burner, and you have to understand you are sacrificing for something larger.
Well said.
Really quickly, just a quick question. So do you feel like also men think about me when they sleep with another woman knowing they have a family? Just a question.
This is what I would say. When you
It's a
come into a marriage,
biological urge.
you have to ask, is everyone doing their duty and their responsibility? Is he bringing home the bread?
Yeah, exactly. Is he doing his job? Is he bringing home the money? Is he squandering the family's money on hoes? If he's doing that, that's a problem. But if he's not doing that, and if he just gets some pussy once in a while, but he's bringing home hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, what's your fucking problem? Or millions. What's your fucking issue? What do you bring, pussy? Okay, I'm bringing all this other shit. I have to be taller than you, stronger than you. I have to protect you if shit goes down. If some guy's bothering you, I have to go deal with it. I have to do all of these things for you that you don't have to do for me. And all I ask is that you make me a sandwich and that I'm gonna smash some other pussy once in a while. Is that too much to ask? But it's all about me, what I want. Well, I'm a Sagittarius. That's why I'm fucking a selfish cunt.
Is he taking care of the bills? Do you guys all have a roof over your head? Does he handle almost all the large responsibilities? If he does, he's done his part. In that same token, you as a wife, have you been supportive? Have you created and fostered a home where when he comes to, it's not stress and you don't just come home, start nagging his ear off. He's like, damn, I don't want to be here. Let me go back to the streets. You know, have you done your job?
Guys, women lose respect over any man they have power over. And marriage in this country and United States and in Western Europe, they give the woman too much power. So much so to a point where she's like, well, I have all this power over him. And that just dries up their pussy. Because they want a man to be in charge, in control, and in power. And once you lose that, they're like, well, I can just tell him whatever. I can just tell him what to do and he does it. And if I decide to leave him today, I can take half his money. They just stop respecting you, man. That's why girlfriends are better than wives.
Also on that end. And if you have, then a lot of the stuff on the outside becomes superfluous. And I would say, you guys talk about this, you're like, infidelity, the worst. You go to a lot of those other countries, that's baked in. That's normal. They already know what time it is.
Yeah.
So we talk about it here like, wow. But over there,
Only in a Western country do these women say, okay, I want a G who's a millionaire, who has da-da-da-da-da, drives foreign cars, has clout, has social status, is big and strong, but also at this, and other women want him, but also at the same time, he only fucks me. Only in a fucking Western country is that now the norm. In all these other countries, if you're the big dog, if you're a G, if you're some big politician, or you're some big business magnate, or you got factories, it's expected that you're gonna have side hoes. And in the Islamic culture, you're allowed to actually have 4 wives. So back home where I'm from, in Pakistan, a lot of these rich dudes, they have multiple wives, and the wives are okay with it because they know their guy's a G. Like, duh, of course he's gonna have multiple women. But only in this country do they expect beta male behavior from alpha males. They want you to be a little like saddle soy boy, just sit home and like, yes baby, but you're this big Jack G who's got millions and a Lambo. It just doesn't work that way, ladies. If you want 100% complete loyalty, go get a soy boy. Go get like a guy who makes 40, 50K, or go get you an accountant. But those guys are too boring for y'all ladies. They don't get your pussy wet. You can't have it both ways.
He takes care of everything.
Nobody can have it all.
What if I don't need him to take care of everything?
There's always sacrifices that you have to make. There's always offsets and opportunity costs.
I have my own too. Why should I take it?
And that's great. I'm not mad at you. Go for that. But guess what? In America and in North America in general, women are the ones who are dying alone more than ever. So we can say this stuff and say, I'm going to take it. Go ahead. No one's going to stop you from making your choices. But then also don't complain.
All these bitches, they're talking like this. These are all future cat ladies. 100%. 100%.
When you hit late 40s or whatever, you don't find somebody. And I'm like, listen, have you guys been settling on the shit that doesn't matter? And they say, no, I'll never settle. Yep. You know, there was a study that came out, bro. And the study said, I think it polled like 300 women, 300 men. Mm-hmm. And it asked the 300 women, if you asked the 300 men, it said, if you had 80% of what you wanted from a wife, would you take her? And guys were like, fuck yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, 80% is good.
Question to ladies. 80% of what you wanted, they were like, I will never settle. 80% of what you want. That's crazy. There's a bit of a delusion of this idea, right? Go ahead.
It depends on what's in the 20%. Is it cheating?
Here's the thing. So you mentioned
part of this problem also stems from the fact that they can get a guy who's a 10 out of 10. All these girls sitting here, none of them are hideous. Like, none of them is ugly. None of them is hideous looking. So all these girls can get a Chad on Tinder who's a 10 out of 10. But then that gasses up their ego and they think, well, that I should be able to get that long term. They can get that for one night or a couple of nights. But then it just fucks up their head where they're like, well, I had that guy for sex, so I should be able to get him for marriage commitment. But it doesn't work like that. The guys who are willing to have sex with you, ladies, are not necessarily willing to settle down with you. And in most cases, they're not. Because most of you ladies, especially with the advent of Tinder and Instagram, you're punching way above your weight class. Most of you women. So just because a guy is willing to have sex with you doesn't mean he's willing to commit to you. So you need to adjust your standards accordingly. You need to really figure out, you ladies need to figure out what you can actually get. And that means what you can actually get is the guy who's willing to be seen with you in public. That's a very good litmus test.
Earlier, I see old people that hold hands. They're still together, 80 years old. You guys want to know the uncomfortable reality? The reason why they're together is because she's a traditional woman. Okay? The problem is that women want traditional relationships. They want traditional men, but they don't want to be traditional women.
Nope.
That's the problem.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
Things have changed.
They still want a masculine alpha male provider who's big, tall, strong. But most of these women, they'll be like, well, if a guy told you not to go out with your friends, they'll be like, oh, well, hell no way. I'm not going to give up my freedom. What do you mean? That's insecure. That's that's small dick energy. They don't want to be traditional women, but they want traditional men. Our role has remained static since the 40s, 50s, but their role has dramatically changed.
Okay, things have changed. And if things have changed, you cannot expect things to be the same way they were in the past. Holding of the hands, that love, that undying love, that comes a lot of the time from the woman, number one, submitting to the man and understanding that he's the leader. Number two, understanding this fundamental concept that a lot of modern women don't understand. Men and women are not the same at all. We're very different. The way we show love versus the way you show love are two different things. If I run around and smash girls, right, it's not personal. If you run around and smash dudes, it is personal. Because the reason why is that it takes women way more to have sex than men do. We can have sex emotionless.
Absolutely.
You can't. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's a big problem. And a lot of modern women can't grasp that men a lot of the times are gonna cheat or whatever, and they'll ruin a family, divorce a man, whatever it may be, and who suffers the most? The kids. Go ahead, Abba.
I want to ask you. You were a registered nurse, correct?
Yeah.
Have you seen?
They don't
people
care
die
about
by
the kids.
themselves?
Yes. Too
It's
many.
all about them.
What's
So
that
sad.
like?
Terrible. Miserable.
And you also have to acknowledge more people are going to be dying alone today than they ever have before, and that's only increasing. So I think there has to be a very sensible discussion about like what are we condemning people to when
Right
we're
now, these broads are not thinking about that because they're still young, they're still in their whole phases. They're not thinking about that shit right now because the party's still going. But they'll start realizing, unfortunately for them, they don't realize it till it's too late. Most of them don't have this epiphany till they're 35, 29 most of the times, or 29, 35 is when they start realizing this shit. But by that time, 90% of their eggs are gone, and most of their good options when it comes to men are gone. Because the guys that wanted them in their 20s don't want them in their 30s or 40s. Jeez.
saying all this stuff because it sounds great in theory. Never settle, go for what you want, etc., etc. But the alternative for a
Oh,
lot
they'll settle when they're older. At 29, 30, it's 50% off.
of women is
50% off on all this pussy. It's fire sale on this pussy at 29, 30.
going to. It might be work out for you, but 3 other women who heard your advice who probably shouldn't have taken it, or they might end up dying alone.
With cats and dogs.
And you're not going to be there for them when that happens. So I think
Like, these women take advice from single females who are like in their, like, most of these dating gurus on YouTube, the women, they're like these old spinsters with no wedding bands on their fingers giving out advice. It's like if I wanted financial advice, if I started walking down the street and start asking homeless people, hey man, how do I make money? Like, how dumb would that be, right? But these bitches ask women who've never really been married or been in a successful relationship, and they ask them for love advice. And no wonder these bitches stay single. It's the blind leading the blind.
we have to be sensible with stuff that we say because I get it. It sounds great in theory, and look, it might work for you, but for the people who are dying alone, I'm like, whoo, that's not a way I want to die.
So
Well,
until when
there's a biological premise that women have been lied to. A lot of women think that at 19 everything is about career, you know, but when they reach 30, they realize, well, what about family? Family starts to become the most important thing, right? Because you're at a prime of life where from there it starts to become downhill when it comes to your
When their sexual marketplace value starts diminishing, then they start thinking, they're like, oh, the I'm not getting the attention that I used to get. The guys who were checking me back then and flying me to Dubai are not hitting me up on IG anymore. That's when they start realizing it. And so you got to be aware of these women who do that, because you don't want to be with a woman who's in it for the wrong reasons. You don't want to be with a woman who wants to have children out of desperation because her clock's ticking and she needs to find an idiot to leech onto.
fertility. So a lot of the times women nowadays are told career is the most important thing.
Yes.
That is a lie. Of course.
Well said.
It is a lie because we are biologically wired, and men also have their wires, but women are biologically wired to give birth, to bring life, and we are intrinsically interested more in people, and men are interested more in things. That's why you have more women
100%,
nurses
yep.
and more men that are engineers or architects. Does not mean that
She's dropping
cognitively
facts.
men and women have actually overlapped more in similarities than in differences. So we have differences in interest, but cognitive ability is about the same. So we could say that mentality, we are equal. Interested, like the things that we are interested in, then we are totally different, you know? But women are also more agreeable. Men are not so agreeable.
Yeah.
So women will settle for an average man, as you said. But nowadays, because of this lie that career is the most important, everybody is like, I don't want to settle. I can do the most for me. But realistically, once you reach 30, you start looking everywhere because biologically your clock it's ticking.
Exactly.
And
they
you
get
want
desperate.
to settle, and
They
you
get-
need to
they get
settle,
really,
and
really
you want a
desperate at 30.
family.
I'm gonna say
There's nothing more desperate than a 29, 30-year-old chick, man. Like, on the first date, they'd be like, where's my baby?
say that they want to settle, a lot of them are not. You know,
No,
that's why we got this new
definitely, yeah.
phenomenon where a lot of ladies, I'm gonna raise a kid by myself.
Yeah,
Oh,
I get
of
a
course.
sperm donor.
Of course,
I'm gonna
I
just
love
raise a
it.
kid. I'm like,
Yeah.
you are bugging, lady.
Mo-
What are you talking about?
Most women would not make that admission that you just made, that
Yeah.
career is a lie. I mean, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with women that make money and want to become successful. But what I am saying is they need to look at the consequences of that. And the consequences of that 9 out of 10 times is you're going to put yourself in a socioeconomic bracket where you don't necessarily qualify to get a man at that bracket. Does that make sense? Because the things that men look for aren't the same things that women look for. So you make $100,000 a year. You want a guy that at least earns $100,000 a year too. So the men that you're looking
Ideally
at,
more.
right, are a small minority of men. The problem that you have, though, is that those men don't necessarily care about how much money you earn, whereas you care about how much money they earn. They
Yep.
have no problem dating down with the girl at McDonald's.
Exactly.
So that's where a lot of career women
100%.
find themselves, where they lose men to younger, more attractive, more compliant, feminine women. And the other thing too is that women that are career women, I hate to say it, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them tend to have masculine traits. Les, you mentioned agreeableness. Agreeableness is a very big predicator on how much money you earn. The less agreeable you
Definitely.
are, the more money you're going to make. You know what I'm saying? And this is why the wage gap is a myth, which that's a whole other conversation. But long story short, you mentioned a lot of facts there. But yes, as a woman earns more money, again, she's going to feel like I'm not going to settle, because women cannot date their equals most of the time. They want to date a superior.
Yep. They cannot respect a man who is less than them. And women fuck guys who they respect. They don't care. They don't fuck guys who they like or even love most of the times. They fuck guys who they respect or admire on some level. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. These designer suits are not cheap. So please go ahead, smash that like button, share it with your friends. That's the least you can do. This is another episode. I hope to be making a lot more. But like I said, these episodes take time and effort. And lots of times, I feel like my YouTube videos are being hidden by the YouTube censors. They're not being shown to people. Sometimes even if people subscribe, the video is not getting shown. So maybe I'm being censored. I'm not sure. But either way, like the video, share, subscribe. Like I said, these Italian-made designer suits are not cheap. 4 Italian men died making the suit, as McGregor would say. So please go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.